Welcome to video part 50. Unfortunately, it's actually the 51st video because I found I had two part 39s. I went through last week, or was it earlier this week, and I added text to the beginning of all my videos. I added a line with a link to the Michael Baddeley Patreon page. Michael Baddeley is who designed these printed files for R2D2. He's got other domes you can print. He's got smaller size droids. He has all kinds of different Star Wars related files that are available. And I wanted to make sure I had a link to his site in my descriptions, so people know where they can go if they want to get these files. Also, you can go to Facebook and look up the Michael Baddeley R2D2 Builders group and see on there examples of people building these. I also put a link to a PDF document of recommended print infill percentages and wall thicknesses for the Mark III R2D2 version that I am printing. I had some people ask questions in comments of what infill percentage I'm using for certain parts, and I decided to put a link to that document in the description of all my videos, because not only is that document there, but the printed droid site, which is where the file is at, has a lot of other useful information. If you're doing a 3D printed droid, I would recommend that you check that out. So today I have actually got some pieces that have white paint on them. The battery boxes are the first thing I painted, and then yesterday I painted the skirt. I'm not the best painter. I think I probably said that before. These turned out okay. These are just rolled up little pieces of newspaper stuck in the thread holes so that the thread holes don't get paint in them, which might cause the parts that screw into them not to fit. This one turned out really nice. I am perfectly happy with how this one turned out. This one, on the other hand, was actually the first one that I sprayed. When I spray these, both for primer and paint, what I did is I used a little copper wire through the mounting hole here and hung them up, and that way I could get the spray paint all the way around the part without having to do, say, one like the bottom and then let that dry, and then another day flip it right side up and do the rest. This was the first one I printed, and I started with the can a little too close. Let's see, grab this here. And I'm not sure how good it's going to show. I'll try and get the light. Okay, left hand side of the bottom there. Paint too thick. It's just a little bit of kind of discolored bubbles because it's too thick. Under the right hand piece of newspaper there, you might be able to see just a little bit too thick there. Little bit of a run where the light is highlighting there on the right hand edge. And there's a diagonal that you can just barely see, like a diagonal line that I'm kind of running it by the light. There with the shadow, you can kind of see it. And that one was really weird because I could see it when I had it sanded with 400 grit before I painted it, but I couldn't feel it. I mean, literally it felt completely flush. And I have tended to go by, your eyes can be deceiving. If you feel something, then it's definitely going to show up in the paint. And that one just felt smooth. It didn't feel like a line, but when I painted it, it actually showed up, which kind of shocked me. I'm not going to do anything with that line because it's only certain lights, and also there are those those squares, rectangles, whatever, that are at the top and bottom. There's pieces that go from the top down to the bottom, and that line is going to be covered up partially by, I think, by both of them, the right and left pieces that go there. Battery straps, I think they're called. So I don't really care. This slight overspray there bugs me, but I could live with it. This one here, though, bugs me to the point where I think I might redo it. And then what you can't, I don't think you're even going to be able to see on the camera in this light, there's not enough paint on the bottom here. Because this, like I was saying, I have them hanging up like this, and I'm basically squatting and painting the underside of it, kind of upside down with the spray can at an awkward angle. And so I didn't get quite enough coverage on the bottom corner. And when I say bottom corner, that's bottom in the relation to how it was hanging up. Because it goes like this on the Droid, that's the top. So if it was like that on the very bottom, I wouldn't care, because that part is, this whole half here is up against the foot shell and the opening, so you can see some layer lines there and stuff. Well, that doesn't matter. That's completely up against the foot shell, so you're not gonna see that. But that's right at the top of the battery box, and it needs a little more paint. So I think what I'm going to do is very carefully sand that down, and that upper corner there. Very carefully sand that, and then I'll take it back outside after letting it dry for a few days, just to make sure that the paint's not going to wrinkle up by painting it too soon. You're supposed to repaint things within a certain amount of time, or after a longer amount of time when they dry, to prevent issues with the other coat sticking. So I will be putting a little bit more paint on that. So happy with those. And this is the skirt, which I spent quite a bit of time trying to get nice. Not so much on this inside, because you don't really see much of the skirt, but you definitely don't see much of the inside. So the inside is only sanded with 220 grit before painting, and I didn't put all that much filler, just got some of the heavy lines out. And then all the bolts go in, and then there's these little square shaped pieces that are on an angle, so they're kind of like diamond shaped when they're inserted, that kind of lock the bolts in place. And some of them are sticking out, and I was having a heck of a time getting them to sand down flush. So some of them you can see, but again, nobody's going to see, especially that far up the skirt, unless they're literally, with their head looking up R2's skirt. So that's not a big deal. The top turned out pretty nice, but I really this piece showed me how much of your prep work will show, because I knew there were some slight areas as I run the light across. I knew there was some areas in this piece that could use a little more work, but because it was the skirt, I was like, it's fine. I've spent so much time on this piece, and I really want to get this painted. I consider this part of the body, so my goal this summer to get the body put together and painted includes the skirt, since I've had the skirt glued together and primed for quite a while. So I went ahead and painted it, because again, it sits up against, where my hand is, that part's up against the bottom of the droid. And it turned out okay, but I can definitely see where I could have spent more time, more filler, more sanding to get it even better. One of the things, if I can get, I'm not sure if I can even get the angle with the light around that top. I'm looking through my phone here as I film this, and I'm right now got that light shining on a spot that's a little low that could have used some more filler. And around, I think the other side is a little bit worse than this one as far as you can see. You might be able to see there's a couple. There's a line across the middle that's a little bit high. So definitely everything is going to show that's not perfect in your prep work. So make sure your prep work is to the level that you want your final paint to be, because it will show through. I didn't think it would show quite as much through on white paint, but it does. So some of these panels, there's a little bit of a wave where there's just an area where I should have used more filler or sanded a bit down more. But again, being the skirt, being that I really wanted to put some paint on, first time I've used this Rust-Oleum satin white just to make sure that it worked and it stuck and it didn't bubble up or have a reaction with the primer, which is also Rust-Oleum. I am satisfied with this for being the skirt, and I'm satisfied, other than, like I said, this one, because it needs more paint here. When the light hits it, you can kind of see that it's a bit gray. You can see a little bit of the primer, and I can feel that it's not quite as smooth on the top because it just doesn't have as much paint as the rest. That'll let me get rid of the little drip, because I held the can too close when I first started painting this very first piece that I put white on, and then maybe up here too, get that little bit. But again, nobody would hardly ever notice those areas unless they were right up close on it. This area, they might notice that it's a bit off color. So it makes me realize how careful I have to be, and that anything that looks questionable with my primer is going to be questionable with the paint. So as I'm doing the rest of the body, I just have to determine, how far I'm going. There are some beautiful droids on the Michael Baddeley Facebook group where people have just phenomenal paint jobs, and between the amount of time I'm willing to spend on this and the quality that I'm going to accept, I am not going to be matching some of those absolutely wonderful paint jobs. I think this is fine enough and will look absolutely fantastic when it's done and assembled. It won't look like it's made out of, aluminum, but it's not. It's a 3D printed droid, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And like other people have said, if you look at the droids in the films, especially the first film, they're really beat up and misaligned, and they have their issues. It was never a perfect droid. So try to just keep this short, I guess. I could show you the leg, but I won't. One of the prior videos, I had the two legs that I put blue color on, and one of them the paint ran. I did sand that back with 220 grit paper. Didn't sand all the blue off, just sanded all the drip areas off, and then generally got it smooth. And then repainted the blue and did a much better job. There's no more drip on that piece. Even though it's in an area you don't see, I figured, well, it's going to give me some more practice using that blue paint, because a lot of the other blue things you actually do see. So I'm happy with the way that turned out, and I'm pretty much ready to paint the white on the legs. I'm just trying to get up the courage, because this being, because I took this part of the foot shell and cut it in half because I was having problems printing this top piece. This is actually, what, one, two, three pieces, so it wouldn't have been a huge disaster if the paint didn't work and I had to redo a battery box. This is four pieces. It does take a lot of time and filament, but again, it's the skirt, so I knew if it wasn't too bad, I'd be fine with it. It didn't have to be perfect. So, um, yeah, I'm happy with the way this white paint is going on, and I am really happy that I've actually got some painted parts, although now I have to figure out where to put them as I get more parts painted. Uh, because right now in my garage, when I'm priming them, I just put them on the concrete floor under one of the cars in the garage, or on some boxes in the garage, just a small area that I have between the two cars in the two-car garage. But when they're painted, I want them not to be resting on anything other than like nice, clean, non-printed cardboard, or something, wood like this that's smooth, doesn't have any ink that might transfer up into the paint, or anything sticky like bubble wrap that might stick to a painted surface as it cures, or anything like that. So, yeah, finally feel like I'm making some progress here with the third ring also glued together, which I won't show you. I did put a first coat of primer on that. I'm worried about how it lines up with the second ring. I'm gonna probably have a friend come over to try and help me when I glue it to the second ring. Have him hold pieces that where the panel lines don't quite line up. Have him kind of hold them so they do line up. Glue it, then put it together. Then while the glue dries, have him hold the panel lines that are misaligned in better alignment, while I'm also there with a soldering iron to melt the plastic, to melt the pieces together so they hold in the proper orientation, because there are areas where you can't get a clamp in. And then I'll see how that turns out. I'll make it work, but again, with the amount that your surface preparation, when you get the paint on it, you are going to be seeing anything that's not perfect will show up. So yeah, I'm hoping that I can get the body good enough that I'm happy with it. Like I am with, like I said, the battery boxes I'm actually really happy with. The skirt I'm so with, because it's not really going to be seen. I could see where there's areas I could do a little more work, could have done a little bit more work, but I'm okay with it because of where it's going. But the body, of course, other than the back, you're going to see the front of the body is the first thing you're going to be seeing and looking at. So I really would like that to be as good as I can get it, obviously. So I'll be spending more time than I thought on prep work on the body before I can put white paint on it. So again, hopefully I'll be able to get that done this year. And the legs are in a good enough spot where I just need to go out and paint them. I have some stuff. Yesterday I needed a break from R2D2. I hung out with a friend all day. And today I've got another friend who I'm supposed to possibly get together with, and the weather has changed, so it's a little bit cooler and the humidity is a little bit higher, so I don't really want to paint today unless the weather changes and it gets a bit warmer. So that's it for this video. Officially, this is part 50, although, like I said, there's a part, I think it's part 39 and a part 39.5. Because I renamed it when I found that I actually had part 39 twice. So a little late celebration of 50 videos, and I'll keep going as long as I'm working on it. So who knows how many videos this will be up to in the end, but hopefully some of them might help somebody out along the line.